God. Are we
Hit the
recording?
big green button. Thank you, Steven. See?
That's
the
why
glue
he's the
right
glue.
here. Right?
That's why he's the glue.
We're about to lose all of it. Have to use the camera audio, and then I just retire forever. So, all right. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lineage Break podcast. Here we're doing our Weebs of the Shore 32 slumber party. Yeah. We're here in Roger's room. I'm your host, Cam. As always, I'm here with Steven, the glue. We're sharing a mic.
Hi, Cam.
We're also here with the irreplaceable TM32 Shinja.
Whoa.
And we have Roger.
Hello.
And Alan.
Hello.
And Sonny, who's slightly off screen. He's here. Whoa. We're all
He's
here.
here.
And we're here to celebrate Grand Archive's first anniversary, the first World Championship.
Woo,
lots of fancy stuff.
Congrats. Clap, clap,
Woo.
clap, clap, clap.
You all did a great job.
Thank you
guys
for
as well.
the various things that you did. Thank you. I appreciate it. So you guys know how it goes on the show. You guys maybe know how it goes on the show. We don't really plan anything. I have some very loose talking points, but before we get there, why don't we go down the line? You guys, tell the viewers at home if they don't know you, who you are, what you do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, my name is Shinja, and I basically am representing TM32. It's we have my friend, boss, partner, Chabo or Ken, who's kind of like the other side of it, and then we have other members like Cherry and Leo who also help out with more event logistics types of stuff. Like Cherry is very like community oriented, so I'm more of the broadcast producer, like technical aspect of the company business. So for example, I was fortunate enough to be able to host the World Championship stream broadcast, and Cam here was one of my casters, poggers. Yeah, but that's basically who I am.
Everyone, my name is Roger, the Director of Operations for Weebs of the Shore here. What that effectively means with that vague title is that I do all of the unglamorous parts of this business. So none of the art, none of the game design, none of that fun stuff. It's all about the skeletons in the closet. How do you ship boxes back and forth? How do you make cardboard look pretty? How do you make sure your taxes and legal documents are all tucked and tied? So I'm here to clean the skeletons for the company,
Woo! Clap, 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 clap.
I guess that leaves me. For those who don't know, I'm Aldeus or Alan. I'm the opposite of Roger. I get to do the fun stuff. I'm the director of R&D at Weebs of the Shore. So that means playtesting, design, balancing, just playing a lot of GA, also being at events and getting to interact with the community. I was working on Path of Steel for the most part, but I am also joined by a great new friend in Chicaplu or Theo.
Ooh,
so if he's watching this episode, shout outs to you, brother.
And then, of course, we have Mr. Lead Designer Sylidar, slightly off screen.
Yeah, give him the mic. Give him the microphone. Yeah.
Am I in?
You're gonna have to
you're
come
You're
a
good.
little closer there.
Yeah, there you go.
Hello, I'm Sylidar.
Hi, Sylidar. Thank you for coming.
Hi, Sylidar.
It's like AA.
Hi, Sylidar.
I'm the lead game designer for Grand Archive. I also do a lot of product development. So what that includes is like designing Path of Silver, Proxy as well, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Ooh, clap, clap, clap.
So it's a very special weekend. I guess now it's Monday that we're recording this, but we had our first World Championship, as Shinja so graciously described. And it's kind of a big deal. I think we're all sort of, at least I am, still decompressing and sort of.
Yeah, it hasn't like hit yet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We
So
haven't
it's like done it and it's over. It hasn't quite hit.
Because it was a lot of work for, a lot of us for sure. But I wanted to, talk to you guys and see how you feel about it. See if we can maybe a little bit early, decompress, have some thoughts about how you feel. It's a big step, for like us that are sort of on the outside, but also, of course, for you guys that have made the game for a year now, and this is like sort of, at least feels to me like the culmination of the first year of Grand Archive. So, whoever wants to, have some thoughts. Have some thoughts, Roger.
There's definitely a bit of like the surrealness. It also does feel like I've been hit by a truck and I'm just kind of lying in the street still.
Yeah,
being
yeah.
Like, okay, something will force me to give up, and I'll think about it a bit more. But yeah, 1 year in, I think I'm not sure if we really started out the journey with being like yes, we will be hosting a world championship in which we'll be inviting 16 players from around the world to participate, all in Las Vegas at this massive venue. I think a lot of this became very ambitious and very, what's the right word? We think we saw the energy and we wanted to kind of like repay that. And every step of the way since the launch was like, how do we make things bigger? How do we make things better? How do we go above and beyond? Just because the community has been so gracious and welcoming and like embracing for our game, and that like we've wanted to keep pushing the envelope. And I don't want to say I'm not satisfied, but I think there are still things that I wish we did better. And it feels like, whether did we reach too far too fast, which I don't think is necessarily the right thought, but that there's so much, what today and this weekend proved is that there's so much that we can do and that so much more we want to do, and that this proved that we were capable of all of those things. And now it's just investing in the resources, investing in the talent, and really making sure year 2 can be so much better than what this was.
I think it's a great starting point too. Like, the whole event seemed amazing. Like, you guys all did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And yeah, I mean, I guess from kind of like in the middle perspective, where I'm not quite on the team, but not quite an outsider, like that's not quite involved in the organizing. It's kind of crazy, right? Because like I also understand the community aspect of what this means to players and people who are into Grand Archive, and also like I see that the devs do see that as well, and you guys you guys are so ambitious, like just from day 0 or -1, even coming from the Kickstarter days, like you guys are always pushing the envelope and dare I say innovative on the TCG space, and it kind of serves as like the inspiration for what I do. For we got the amazing opportunity and privilege to be able to broadcast the World Championships, the top 16, and things leading up to that was a lot of inspiration from them to like, hey, I want to push the envelope for what a TCG broadcast looks like. And a ton of research went into this, obviously, like looking at other card game streams, what do their worlds look like, and stuff like that. So just taking all that and seeing what they want to do, and go, okay, let's try to push my side of the broadcasting. And thankfully both Ken, who is the boss, the money man, right, and the big brains behind it, he's very supportive of, like, he's also very ambitious too, so he's very willing to push. And also working with the devs, they were also very like gracious enough to kind of allow me to expand and kind of do my thing, versus like oh, you can only do this, hey, let's try only doing this, or no, you can't do that kind of thing. They were very open with, I want to do this, can we do this, like I think this is a very cool idea, and they were always like on board, like, hey, let's do it. Or there was never a no, we can't. It's always one of those, like, I've run into situations where people go, I cannot do this, or they ask me to do something and I go, I can't do this because of I don't have the gear, or I don't have X reason, and they go, oh, okay, it is what it is, and then they stop. Yeah, but the thing with Weaves and the dev team is like, hey, I can't do this because of X and Y reason, whether it's gear or not, and they go, okay, well, if you have it, can you do it? Right. And
yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then cool, done. And then it's like, here it is, right? And the fact that they were willing to support me like that, I think helped push the broadcast to where I think it landed at. And I'm kind of a perfectionist, dude. I don't think it was very good. Like it was very successful, obviously, and I think it did go well. But there was a lot of things that could have gone better with that stream, especially like with some of the tech issues that did happen. But yeah, that's just. Very thankful that we're kind of in line with our goals, and we're just kind of supporting each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the farthest outside perspective, I'm all sunshines and rainbows, which is I really respect the attitude that you, the developers, and also you, Shinja, have, that it's always striving for improvement. And so it's hard. Like, obviously, I look at my own performance and I want to improve that, but like when I look at the production and the event as a whole, like, I'm all, smiles and happiness. So I hope that that's how the community feels. I really do think that it is.
I mean, I've heard a lot of good things, both about the broadcast, which is what I was involved in, but also
Right.
more of like the actual event organizing. Like there was a lot of side events, there's things to do. I think cosplay was very cool,
Yeah.
and obviously the scrub out tournament was something that's always popular now.
So
'cause,
cool, yeah.
You scrub out at day one. It's like, oh, what else am I gonna do? It's like, well, you got a giant jumbo card to try to fight for.
Yeah.
So lots of good feedback between all aspects of Worlds.
Alan, how did you you said you were mostly doing Path of Steel this weekend?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
How was the feedback as far as the teams format? Because I think it was like a really interesting choice for you guys to go with teams like so early in the game because it's so young. I'm like personally a huge fan of team formats, but I know that some people aren't, and sometimes it can force people away. But it was the biggest, I think, right? The biggest ascent that we've ever had was the teams format.
Yeah, I mean, we had an incredible 240 players, and we filled out way more spots than we thought.
Right.
I'll say though, we wanted teams because it was more of a selfish reason. We really just enjoy team formats as well, and it was both a struggle and a miracle that we got it all put together in time. And we have a lot of great, passionate team members who were able to let us do these things, things that we want. And yeah, it was crazy to see all those teams play. And then not only did they play, if they didn't make it day one, they even played the second day 2 tournament. So it was mind-boggling. Yeah, we weren't sure. We had a lot of discussions on the format itself. If we wanted to be best of 1 between the players, best of 3. There was issues how do we want the construction of deck lists, the thoughts of communicating. That's always been differing between different TCGs and different games that you'd play. So I think in the end we found something that was good for us, and I think our community enjoyed it, and it definitely hit that mark where we wanted teams to feel competitive but not overly casual in a way too. So we find that really sweet median, I feel. So
yeah,
very happy with Path of Steel, and I gotta give applause again to Chickapoo or Theo. He did an amazing job also helping me get all of the documentation together, and shout outs to our TO for the tournament, Andy from Yeti Gaming. He's well experienced man in the field.
Bestial Frenzies. Woo.
Yeah.
He did a stellar job. Helped us at Ascent Houston too. So yeah, we're just in really good hands overall this week, and I couldn't have done it on our own.
Yeah, I was super impressed by the staff as a whole. Not, of course, you guys. Expect you guys to be doing there, and Shinja to be running all over the place, but such great judge staff and and tournament staff and all that.
Yeah, shout out to Cherry and the volunteer staff, the judge staff, head judge, all that stuff. So
yeah, we were definitely not alone at this event, and it really felt that way for all of us. That we were able to get some sleep, able to just also enjoy and talk to the community, and I was able to roam around much more this time. So it was a really fantastic event, and I applaud our staff and applaud the community for being understanding of how we are as a young company.
Yeah, I think it was great. I remember going to Houston, which feels so far away now, but
yes,
I remember going to
definitely
Houston.
feels forever ago.
Yeah, and being so blown away. It was such a smaller venue, and a smaller event, and there was less there was no or very few side events, but it still felt like such a community event, and really people coming together. And I worried as the game grew that you would lose that, right? As the game gets big, you lose that sort of grassroots community feel.
Right.
But, with such a larger tournament and so much more things going on and a much bigger venue at a much, more prestigious place right here in Las Vegas, it felt exactly the same, which, was just absolutely wonderful. So,
yeah, I think that's definitely one of the biggest goals. And I remember coming out of Houston, we kind of sat down and we were like, what is our goal for Ascents in general, but what is our goal for events for Grand Archive moving forward, right? I think at that time we've crafted this competitive card game that people really enjoyed playing, and there were good prizing. But when we really dug down into it, we were ultimately I think our goal for this is to be more of a celebration, more of a convention for Grand Archive in the community, and where people wouldn't just say like, I'm super excited to play at the next event, I can't wait to like top, or I can't wait for the prize. It was more of like, I can't wait to just go to the next event to see what cool things are there, to see what different aspects of the game, of the story, of the community I'm gonna be able to visit. And what we saw a bit of that with Ontario, with kind of our goals when we talked with TM32 about, what is our goal for planning Ontario? What do we want to shift towards? We saw a bit of that with Ontario, and then even more so into Worlds of like, okay, what additional events, side events, decor can make this really feel more cohesive, not just like a TCG tournament, which I think we were looking at different industry competitors being like, it's very, not bare bones, but the priority is the competition. And a lot of people do come out to look for that and come out to play expecting that exactly. But we wanted to grow the base in more dimensions than just that, which, again, a very ambitious, potentially reckless thought from our standpoint as a small developer. But I think that's the goal that we really wanted to aim for. And I feel we did nail that aspect. Of course, we could iron out some kinks here and there, but it feels
There's always
like
improvements.
that we've really captured that spirit, and we know kind of like the pathway to build on for the next coming year of many, many more events we've announced.
I can definitely say that the design of the space was absolutely phenomenal. Like all the cutouts and the standees and
We had a lot of fun
banners.
picking out which cutouts we were picking. Like, all right, we need can we do cutouts? Yes. All right, how many? The answer was yes. So we're like, alrighty, like let's go.
I definitely was walking around going, oh wow, these would look real nice in my room.
Yeah, we're really proud of the decorations, and Roger was talking about this earlier. There's a lot of things that we could have improved on, and it was even though like we were striving for, we were honestly like a little bit disappointed because we wanted so much more too. Maybe that's like us all being perfectionists or greedy. I'm not too sure. It's a fine line in between, but in the end, like it was very heartwarming just to see like everyone be like, "This is amazing. This is like way more than we'd ever expected for a world championship. Like these decorations are insane. Yeah, they're like the 30-foot king slime like along the wall.
The king slime was definitely one of my
that
favorites.
discussion was very fun.
Yeah.
How big?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah, it was funny because Sylidar and I were talking about the story of how he found an order. I asked them the biggest they could make, and they were like, "Are you sure?" So yeah, it was a really fun thing to see come together. It was really fun trying to put that thing together too. But yeah.
So, on the note of Worlds, obviously, a great event. We're all very happy, and we'll get past the mushy stuff and get into a little bit more fun. So, something that was really cool that happened at Worlds was the recollection event, which I think was a great idea.
Yes.
Whoever of you was responsible, it's a great idea.
It was like more like a team thing,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just something like we knew it was going to be cool, so let's just do it.
Super
Yeah.
cool. And we got to see the entirety of MRC that at the time of recording is out in a few days. I assume Shinja's got many cases on the way back home for when
yes.
it shows up.
Yeah, I don't think I will be able to touch them because I am
Mhm.
going away for like kind of disconnecting for a bit.
Yeah.
But yes, it's gonna be exciting coming back.
Right.
That'll be fun.
But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about MRC, both from our sort of side and also from you guys, as it's I think it feels like to me like a very big step for the game. The second expansion set, FTC was a bit of a small one, and felt like, at least to me, way more connected to DOA, where MRC is so big, it feels like just as important as a flagship launch like ALC. But something that I personally find really interesting about the set is this is the first time that we're having a set that supports all 7 classes, which is not something that we've had up until now. And so I'm curious, Alan, from the design side, did you find it difficult to sort of like spread the love around and get because like now we've looked at the set, and over lunch I was scrolling through TCG Player, reading the cards, and it seems like there's great support for almost every class, and even some like divergent strategies for classes that were like sort of not entirely fleshed out that seemed to be a little bit more. So was it difficult to sort of find space to support everybody in a set that's not necessarily supposed to be supporting like Crux and those DOA elements?
I mean, yeah, of course. It's always a challenge, right, to design a supplemental set and have support for all the classes. It's some things we want to push a little bit more with MRC, especially coming off the back of a main set that also needs more support. And then, we don't want to necessarily like power creep out the previous classes from, FTC and DOA. It gave birth to like new ideas though. It was something that like, how can we introduce something new? We felt like MRC wasn't enough actually, so Sylidar had the great idea actually to do the recollection decks, and I was on board from the very moment he like proposed it to me. So it was a really, really fun and like interesting thing to like test out, and we wanted to basically return to some of those designs that you didn't get to see as much in Dawn of Ashes and Fractured Crown, and show that again in the Mercurial Heart world. So, like with the new Tristan, she's mainly like very involved in this new world, and then you get to see a side of Sylvie that you never got to see in Fractured Crown. So it's, I think we're gonna keep exploring those ideas, and I think that we'll never be able to get like something perfect, but since we always strive for it, we'll do the best that we can, right? So. The hardest part, honestly, was making sure that everything felt really fun still, and then everything felt some sort of like cohesion like that we had. But I'm very proud of MRC, and the playtesting team had a great time testing MRC, and I think that it brings a lot of freshness to Grand Archive, and I think a lot of players will enjoy it.
Yeah, I think something super interesting that I don't know if it's recency bias on my part, and feel free to weigh in if you feel differently. But when I was looking at the MRC card list, I see a lot of like unique cards that feel like big build around cards, stuff like Calamity Cannon, right? Like sort of forcing you towards this sort of deck building style, which feels like there's a lot more of those in MRC than there has been in the past. That sort of allow people to explore different avenues for classes or for champions. Is that something that you were actively targeting, or did that just sort of happen naturally?
Yeah, it's something that we were actively targeting. Like, if you wanted to, like, sort of our process is like we're transitioning to a phase where main sets are kind of like almost like an introductory version, like of what you could expect with a supplemental product. So when you first get the main set, it's maybe great to think about it as not as the end all by all, like you need everything from this set, but there's more to come. That's like a preview of what we want or what we're envisioning. So with MRC, you saw with Calamity Cannon and stuff, we had sort of the idea that like it's designed to be like an ultimate skill. Like this is like where they pop off, or we wanted to show that on the card and signify that this is how this character plays in the flavor of the world, right? So that's sort of like the explanation behind like why you can see some of these cards are like leaning more towards like one direction, because this is how we design things. We start off with a base story, lore, flavor, and then we make sure those characters operate that way, right? So
yeah, I love the idea of sort of those like ultimate abilities. I know you're all degenerate League of Legends players, so like I can So yeah, that's really awesome. Actually, I'm really excited to play with like the water mage stuff. I found super interesting. That's sort of not exactly Arcane Blast your face sort of strategy, but somewhere some self milling, some casting of spells out of the graveyard sounds really cool.
Looking forward to seeing what you do.
Ooh,
I may judge from behind the scenes though.
Yeah, okay. Something else that I wanted to touch on briefly is now that we have MRC cards in hand. I've had the pleasure of opening a foil or two in that recollection event, and that's something that I wanted to poke you about, Roger, because I know this was announced, I think, at Ascent Ontario. I get all my keynotes confused, but I know that you guys were getting some new machines from like Japanese developers, and I know that you also switched the foiling process. I heard from somebody a bizarre story about a rice cooker. Is any of this true?
Yeah, so I think what's so special about not necessarily owning, but having so much control with the manufacturing process is something that's I feel pretty unprecedented within the industry, just because so much of the industry is monopolized by a couple, household names or a couple brands, and or constrained by time, because we're somewhat freed from some of these shackles, and now that we are making capital investments into the process itself, it allows us a lot of freedom to see, okay, what is industry standard and what is beyond that? What can we experiment to see how this can challenge or upend the industry or not work out super well? And that's always the challenge with experimentation, is to see really how does the community respond to a slight change or a slight adjustment or a different type of treatment, for instance. And so, we did invest in machinery, and that was mainly for collation, to improve speed, to improve packaging, and to bring us up to the standard, because previously, considering our scale, considering our size, we could only make such or smaller investments to pick up and really just kick off the game. Set one, the fun story is always we packed it by hand. Set two, we found the cheapest possible option to not pack it by hand. And then going forward, we were like, how do we scale to be in the big leagues, essentially? And so along with that is kind of like tests around how foil treatments work, right? I think the armament foils in FTC was our first real departure from the norm. And it was more around like, we've seen cold foils, we've seen other type of like equipment foils. What can we do that's potentially slightly different, but also can highlight the art aspect of, anime equipment and that style the best? I think there are some things about that we were happy with, and there are actually some aspects about that we weren't as happy with. And so we kind of took that feedback back to the drawing board, and with, ALC, and then with some additional kind of testing, for instance, the Sapphire packs with ALC is actually a slightly different foil treatment. And this is where kind of the rice cooker mythos comes in. I don't think we're ready to quite talk about that just yet. But the feedback from it has been, or the results have been pretty positive to what we were expecting to see. Now it's about making the investment into scale to see if it's feasible at a larger scale. And so we're pretty excited to see how that will end up, because I think there are a few aspects of that that can be pretty transformative within the industry, that a lot of people have kind of poked, why does this have to happen all the time? But beyond that, there are a couple aspects that we think can push above and beyond what the current type of max rarity card is. I think, although it is very appealing and kind of like, very beautiful, of course, like the CSR treatments, the SP treatments, texture, selective foiling, signature, gold stamping, embossing, there's something we think can potentially push that envelope further. And so we want to start seeing what exactly can make a max rarity card look even better than that, going beyond just
Yo, chat.
And we're not quite sure on what the timeline is on that, and of course we may not know if it comes into production within the next year, of course. But that is in effect of our ethos of like, how can we consistently and see what the corner boundaries of the industry space are, what is even possible. And I think what best reflects this in the short term is just the construction of the recollection boxes themselves. You guys probably haven't seen them yet. Well, I don't know by the time this releases.
They'll be on launch day.
Yeah, but part of what was so fun about building the recollection boxes from a design standpoint was, how can we make this the most beautiful, the most pristine, the most like pushed box from a design consumer aspect, along with even partnerships that the industry hasn't seen before. And I think we approached Dragon Shield with the idea 4 months back, and they were like, hey, sounds cool. When do you need it by? And from there, we were like, oh, if that is doable, then let's work backwards and design the box, the case. What do people want? What is, really premium, magnetic, gold, embossing, etc. And from there, we took lessons from just different industries like luxury packaging, from phone cases, from graphics card makers, just to see, we kind of get so bored of this just like four-corner box, really thin cardboard. Why not make it something that you want to keep? Why not make it something that you can put on yourself and really appreciate as well? And so really that kind of spiraled into what the recollection deck is now. And I think there are a few aspects we can improve on, but I'm really overall happy with how that product turned out.
Yeah, I would have to say, like, just from holding the Tristan one, it feels so nice. It looks
Specifically
so
the Tristan one.
nice. Yeah, well, the Tristan one. Not saying anything bad about the Sylvie one, but just the product itself is just so amazing, and I can really, you can tell that love went into making it.
Yeah, it's crazy that, we kind of got an inkling of that with the SP1 boxes, right? Where, I mean, we're all degens, so people are just ripping like an absolute, omega ton of them. But the problem that I found with a lot of people were like, they don't want to throw the box away, right? Because it feels like it's a waste, right? Because it's so nice. It's like, one, it's also a nice storage box. It fits a lot of the cards pretty nicely, but the box just feels so premium that it to them, it hurts them to just chuck it into the trash. And I know still a lot of people who have tons of empty boxes just kind of sitting around because, again, they don't want to throw it away. And that translated to the recollection boxes actually even better because, now they're actual cases and they can store your decks in your sleeves. And I found that the D6 case sometimes can also fit in there. So you can literally fit everything, like your decks in there, your sideboards in there, extra sleeves, and then your dice all in one box and you just take it with you, right? So it's actually super nice to see that like the upward trajectory.
Yeah, I think a big part of it also was we wanted the product to not feel necessarily constrained to also Grand Archive on the outside. We wanted it to be nice enough that you could put your Magic deck, you could put your Commander deck in it, you can put your Shadowverse deck, but as far as such a premium product that you could take to any event, but then also reflexively share kind of the Grand Archive IP, the Grand Archive product design publicly as well, was part of the goal of designing a product that's so good that you want to use everywhere effectively.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big deal getting those into stores. Myself running a store personally, after seeing the box, and I don't want to spend any of this time taking shots at other games, but it is really kind of far and above basically anything else of its caliber. We've seen a lot of companies, even recently, make some similar products that have not been so great and come with very minimum packaging, and you really don't get what the price is suggesting that you should. And so I think Grand Archive getting this sort of product into stores is going to be huge for pushing the game.
Yeah, it's almost criminal. It's how do you guys make money? Because
Right.
it's the value that you get from a recollection deck and the cost of it to a consumer. Because, it's you work your way backwards. Right? It's it's MSRP for $50. And then, now the store has to buy it.
Right.
And then the distro has to buy from you guys. So it's where is this line of margin that you guys are representing? And it's it's a deck and you guys have played it in the premiere event. And I hope you guys felt like it was competitive enough to where it didn't just feel like a starter deck. Maybe it's not quite S tier meta, maybe, who knows, but at least it wasn't just brand new spanking starter deck, right? So you get, okay, cool, you buy it, I would feel like a pretty competitive deck just straight out of the box. Then you have Dragon Shield sleeves, which is $20 generally speaking, yeah. And then you have nice little cute life counter, and then you have your dividers, and then you also get a deck box. It's bro, for $50, man, are you kidding me? So I think it's such a criminally good value product.
Yeah, I hope Shinja's not right, and I hope you guys are making money, because he is right. It seems kind of absurd.
We just moonlight as circus performers every now and then. You get a good gig and go hard.
Yeah. Oh, really? Sylidar said it was originally 40.
I will say, again, harkening back to being in control of the manufacturing process in so much detail, actually, the product is not that bad margin-wise for us. And I think that's
good to hear.
It's good to hear, and also you're putting all of your competitors to shame.
And I think that it comes to the business of just having such a good relationship with our manufacturer. I know I joke about it, but I am in the factory 6 months out of the year, and we're just iterating, constantly repeating different aspects of design, because as much as we've put in passion into the project, they are equally as invested in growing their own capabilities as well. And so that kind of like interpersonal dynamic with our manufacturing process has helped pay off dividends in the past year that we've been working with them.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that were touched on that I want to follow up on before we get too far. Something that, and hopefully if I'm pressing you guys too hard, just say no, that's fine.
Leak.
Leak. But just with how I think really good this project is going to be for the game, and I guess, we'll see how it lands to market, but at least anecdotally, they've been selling very well for me, and I think online, lots of people have been sold out. Is this something that you guys are going to like continue to target in the future? Is this sort of like a special thing we're only going to get once in a while?
I think the goal is, when we initially pitched the idea, we wanted to see how well received the product was. And so just as far as like our own capabilities with logistics, we've paired it with a set release.
Right.
But if the product design and idea is well accepted and successful, and our supply chain for the product can be worked out in advance, there is a world in where we can start releasing these as potentially separate SKU lines just in between set releases. And I think that harkens back to the story design of what the product is.
Yeah.
In the name, the recollection, it's supposed to reflect on a champion's memories, look back at a collection of, periods or character design that we didn't get to fully explore in a set,
Right.
which means we can detach it from whatever mainline set we're currently exploring or working on. And that means we can give so much more love to these previous champions that maybe didn't get as much attention in past sets. I think one of the interesting aspects we didn't consider at the start of the game was that people would have very strong attachments to all of the champions.
Right.
And so
We love Alan.
What this product really does is then let us go back and explore further each of those individual stories without needing to have people wait until a mainline set, visits that world again or has them come into a different world within the main storyline. We can kind of do the anime trope of like, well, here's side quest number 1 and
Sure.
side story B, and really explore all these aspects of lore and character and gameplay design within one cohesive product.
And I have to assume, especially with, assumingly, obviously we don't know about the future, but the history of the game main sets being usually not all 7 classes being focused to, 3 or 4. I assume it's maybe freeing to be able to use these recollection decks as a sort of a way to design cards without having to think about their impact on the larger set.
Yeah, I can speak on that a little bit. It's like the recollection gives us a way to make things more specialized, and like Roger mentioned, it's like exploring that character's memories or stories a little bit more. And it takes a lot of pressure off of us. And I spoke about it earlier when designing like Mercurial Heart, where we don't necessarily have to think as hard to maybe include some Sylvie support or some new assassin cards. It's a way for us to build up further upon our ideas. And speaking of the future, we always have things cooking in the chamber. I'd say getting to work closely with Sylidar, and him being my friend for a long time, he's always had great ideas, and I always try to help him put it together. So we always have a lot of cool stuff on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm sure we have no doubt about that. There's always cool stuff coming. And especially, speaking of cool stuff coming, and something that Shinja mentioned, we have Supporter Pack 2 was just announced at the end of the keynote, which is like kind of crazy. There was a lot of information that we got at the keynote, and so
A lot of acronyms there.
Yeah. I'm always a big fan of, you get like the cheering at the keynote and people clap, but you can tell that the biggest reaction is when people don't do anything, because they're like reading, they're like, oh, what's going on? But yeah, Supporter Pack 2 is like right around the corner, right? So a couple of months
I think
out.
like July 4th is what it said. Yeah.
And I assume this is a response to success from the first one. Did the first one do like pretty well for you guys?
Yeah, it was an amazing, resounding success. I helped fuel so much growth in our organized play, as far as like additional regionals, all the additional sense we've then added on, and then even the budget for worlds leading up to this.
So Support Pack 2 is assumingly going to coincide with some sort of like merch day release. Are you guys going to have it regularly available? Because the point of Supporter Pack, for anybody who's not aware, is it's a direct-to-consumer product, so it's not something that normally goes to LGSs because the money is used directly to support organized play. Is that still the case?
Yeah, so we'll be premiering it at Anime Expo on July 4th.
Great.
And so that'll be the first time that the public
Oh
can.
boy, day 4? Is that day 4?
I believe
They're doing it's like
No, that's the first day.
oh, did they change dates?
Well, the year wrapped around, so it's 4 to 7, I think.
Okay, gotcha.
Imagine starting a convention on July 4th. What a plan.
Weaves and American holidays.
Yeah.
But this time we've lined up a series of conventions globally to also make sure that different countries, different regions around the world can also have access to Supporter Pack 2 within the kind of like 1 to 2 months of that event. And then, of course, we'll follow up with an online merch day for those that otherwise didn't have access to it as well. I think our goal is to, from lessons learned the last time, is like, how do we make sure this product can get into as many people's hands as possible that want to buy it, that want to support us, of course, that makes sense logistically and financially for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to give you impossible logistics questions, so I apologize if these are unfeasible and I'm making you look bad on camera. I know in a DOA there was some like supporter packs that were available at regionals, but I know there was much fewer regionals in DOA. Is that still something you guys are thinking about?
It's a possibility for us to consider. I think, like, you are right, depending on our regional schedule with MRC, kind of the expansion of it.
Right.
I think in DOA we had like 3 regionals.
4, I think,
4.
in the U.S., maybe a couple abroad, yeah.
And then ALC we've had 20.
Yeah.
And so there are certainly questions about, like, okay, is it possible? We'll definitely have to think about it, but we'll announce it beforehand if we go through with it.
I'm a huge fan of Merch Day. I like the idea of the sort of exclusive window, and I wouldn't be shocked to know that I assume that drives more sales than if there was like a regularly available online store, because that sense of urgency is really good to get people to spend money, myself included. Is that a plan going forward? I assume it's kind of a logistical nightmare for you guys to just like have an online store all the time. I know you're a team of now like 10 people, which is extremely, extremely small for how large the game is becoming.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a balance of where we want to put our resources.
Sure.
And where kind of the best ROI for the community and for the game is.
Right.
Like, of course, we could order enough material constantly to have a upkeep of stores and have staff fulfilling that. But then, and I think this always comes up when people are like, where's my lore story? Like, I want to read more lore. And I'm like, well,
yeah, Roger, where's my lore?
just like merchandise fulfilling, that time has to come from somewhere, right? It's at our scale is very much a zero-sum game where time and money dedicated to kind of like one aspect means that it's coming away from somewhere else. And as much as we want to fulfill as much of the community demand for kind of like these aspects as possible, at the core, we want to make sure the game is sustainable, the game and the product itself is done in a satisfactory manner, of course, to our standards. And then once we can, get ahead of that, we can explore adding on some of these niceties or additions to have. But I think, like you said, there are some benefits to this type of limited merchandise sales. It also lets us predict our sales and also our inventory a lot better.
Sure.
And so I don't think we're going to be changing from that anytime soon, considering the very ambitious year we've also announced following that.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God, that timeline.
I believe I was talking with some friends at lunch, and I think there's a like large scale Grand Archive event every month for the next 12 months except for 2. It's like July and February, I think, and there's like an Ascent or a Nationals or something every other month of the year.
Yeah, so when we talked about it as a team, we were like, I think our end state ideal is that we have an Ascent almost, if not every month, somewhere. And I think we took it back and we were like, well, that's our end goal. What's stopping us from doing it now? Well,
sleep.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So, and it's always a question of like the chicken or the egg. It's like, are we going to wait for us to build up the capability and then pursue it? or do we pursue it and then build up the capability to the kind of like the deadline we've set? And I think that's how we've operated the past year, and we've done it with potentially resounding success, potentially some demerit as far as stress and anxiety goes. And so
And lack of sleep.
Lack of sleep, yeah.
part of it is also learning balance, but also momentum, because as you know, this industry is very momentum driven. Once you kind of like lose momentum, it's a little hard to pick it back up. We're very lucky with how FTC into ALC, now into MRC, has kind of like recovered, and we're very thankful for both the community and the stores for like giving us the second chance and opportunity for that. And so we want to make sure we can maintain that momentum, especially going into such a year with so many competition as far as other TCGs
Right.
goes.
And even more like coming out every day, we're having such a feels like a renaissance of trading card games that, you know, you guys are obviously a big part of. But yeah, it's no easy feat. Like we said, it's a 10-man team, and I know that you said at Worlds, obviously you had a wonderful support system and some volunteers, but like, you know, Alan was running Path of Steel. Alan, are you going to travel to 12 Ascents this year around the world to run tournaments?
Hey, you got this, man. I believe in you.
I don't even want to visit Roger at the factory. I think like we made a lot of friends along this journey, and I mentioned that, you know, Andy was actually the head TO of the tournament and ran the entire Ascent Worlds for us. And while Theo did manage the 16 players for that side of the event, we've been fortunate enough to have good OP partners now as well. We've had, you know, our friends at, you know, Geek Culture down in New Zealand. They helped us, I said, with Ascent Auckland back then, and then that opened the doorway to us being more giving of like the responsibilities, because we're all perfectionists, but that's also one of our vices where it's hard to let go sometimes. And then I personally will try to travel to as many Ascents as I can, but I can't promise that I'll be there at all of them. But
Shame on you.
don't worry.
Yeah, come on, man.
Everyone's in good hands. You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Yeah, I was stunned to learn that you and Sonny had traveled to both of the nationals that were like weeks apart, both in Oceania and in Southeast Asia.
That was quite a journey.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been my friend for more than a decade. It was, you know, fun for us to go out there to
Yeah.
Singapore, and I think there's a part of me that will never want to give this up, where it's to meet the community and be there and watch players play the game and enjoy the game, get frustrated or be happy with it. I think that's something that I hope we all never get to, you know, stop experiencing. I think the trip itself, while it was like long and, you know, the seats were small on the plane, but it was well worth it. I think we'll try to do that as much as we can, and it's not the worst thing to be able to travel for work.
Yeah,
I guess,
travel around the world and see people play the game that you created, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I sent a message to Shinja because I didn't get to catch much of, I think it was SEA Nats, and I sent a message to Shinja, and it was like, who's on commentary with Gasmus? It sounds like Alan. And he's like, oh, I think it's Alan. I was like, what?
Yeah, that was me. That was fun. So, you know, the planning for Nats was a little bit rushed, in all honesty. We're trying to make sure we just get the most competitive tournament and get people playing. And so we can get those Worlds qualified players and then push everything into basically this event here. You know, that's why Shinja did a fantastic job, you know, getting media day and getting those players' stories out there. And
I tried.
it was interesting to be sitting at the casting table with Gaz, because he actually wasn't able to make it to play, and I asked him, I was like, do you want to just sit back there and talk about the game a bit? And he was just like, of course. And then sat back there like, you know, 8-9 hours with me. So
It's a long day.
it was a long day, but it was a lot of fun. You know, I don't get to talk about people's play very much because I know a bit of the future, right? But
Right.
It was really cool. It was really fun.
Alan's pretty good at star calling, you know.
Yeah,
Star call.
I'm just the best cheater on the team. That's why.
Star call me a good cleric deck. So I don't want to waste too much of you guys' time. I very much appreciate you all, you know, coming in and being on the show.
It's an honor, Mr. Cam.
I don't want to.
First time on Lineage Break.
Yeah, whoa.
The first
whoa.
Grand Archive podcast.
Whoa.
The Lineage breaks hard.
Yeah, I don't want to get, too sappy, but it's very surreal to have, not only the developers, but you as well, Shinja, to be on the show. So I really
Yeah, it's
appreciate
crazy. I've always watched and always listened, and now I'm here. So it's also kind of surreal and also pretty cool that I'm actually here now. So
I just want to say thank you for giving us time out of your busy days to just sit.
I think
and
we're
talk
still
with
tearing
us.
down. so after this, I'm really gonna go back over there and start loading the truck.
But the audience would be remiss if I didn't try at least a little bit for the fun stuff. So the last thing that we got at the keynote, actually, Sonny's perked up in the corner.
Here for control,
The last
damage
thing
control.
that we got in the keynote was the announcement of Set 5, which is very exciting. Mortal Ambition. One thing that I think you guys can talk about before we get to the things that you guys can't talk about is, Roger, you mentioned a little bit in the presentation about the sort of origin, at least of where the idea of this set came from. Can you talk a little bit about that? You said it was stories from childhood and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the core kind of theming of Set 5, of course, comes from the Three Kingdoms mythos, the kind of the most famous fairy tale childhood story from China. And so both Tin, our art director, and myself, I think the storyline reflects a lot of kind of the fables and childhood tales that we grew up with, and that not only has evolved into video game franchises like Dynasty Warriors and Alan has played, and other tales and animations and stories that have kind of spun out of that. And so when we thought about where we were going to go after kind of ALC and MRC, I think we had a pattern of we started with Cambria, kind of a very entrenched medieval fantasy. Then we moved on to a steampunk style, very kind of not off kilter, but something that we wanted to push and see genre-wise, where were we going to explore with this kind of idea of mechanical automatons. Then with Set 3, we wanted to return something that not only the team had a very strong passion around, but our artists had a very strong connection to. And I think we wanted to make the investment here of how can we really polish the art, the product, and push forward what we finally think that we have the resourcing to really deliver a set that's fully capable of all of our design, manufacturing, and art capabilities. And so this was kind of the theming that we decided out of all of things that made the most sense aligning across all of our functions. I think we're really excited to really showcase all of that with Mortal Ambition and then HVN Set 6 coming after that.
Yeah, something that we heard a lot, at least I guess anecdotally, something that I heard from people. I'm always pushing Grand Archive, so I hear some feedback. And some of the feedback that we had before ALC, before we had seen it, was the worry that, the game started so rooted in that fantasy, Cambria setting, like you said. And the worry was that when ALC came out, which was such a divergent setting, that it would be hard to connect the two and find a through line, both artistically and mechanically, to sort of make GA feel like GA no matter what the setting is. And I think you guys obviously did a fantastic job with Azoth, but do you find it difficult, the more different that you get the setting, sort of tying GA with some through line, both art-wise and lore-wise, but also design-wise?
Yeah, it's a really interesting challenge because by and far, and I think we agree on this, a trading card game is one of, if not the worst medium to convey a story through, right?
You got that right.
You can't even open the cards chronologically because you need to collate for draft and or pack organization. You're potentially outlining climactic scenes that you might see before the start of the origin. And so it's how can you tie these art pieces from a style, from a climax, from a plot standpoint, from a character design standpoint, and then go backwards and then tie multiple sets together,
right,
and then root that into a general IP, a general mythos. And part of the reason is why I ultimately brought on Bell full time, because it was something that we saw as far as our game goes, comparing especially against other anime IP games. There's such a big impact on your emotional investment in the characters that you play, the characters that you see. And part of that is seeing their designs evolve and change. and tying that potentially between different settings. And so understanding that, we wanted to push the boundaries of different set designs creatively between kind of worlds, but also make that cohesive is two very contradictory challenges.
Right.
But we can do that if we're able to tie the core aspects of what does it mean to be a champion? What does it mean to come from the homeworld? What does it mean to fight for the Grand Archive and or against the Grand Archive? And so I don't think we've quite gone far enough to start revealing that directly, but I think we very successfully hinted at all of those aspects to the point where it feels mechanically aligned of that I am a champion, and even though I'm summoning aspects from Azoth, from Cambria, potentially from this new world, it feels cohesive from a flavor and power standpoint, and ultimately we then want to wrap that into a story and tale that does make sense across multiple worlds going forward.
Yeah. Design-wise, Alan, do you find that it's similarly a challenge to connect things? Something that that we noticed is mechanics that carry over. Things like Seeking Shot is what comes to mind, right? Is an arrow, which is a ranger attack, and of course, sees a lot of play in Diana, but Diana is a very flavor-wise different champion, uses a gun and bullets, but of course, those are all flavored to where they come
Give
from.
me Diana with a bow. I'm down.
So do you find it hard to sort of tie mechanically things together as you go through very different regions and obviously champions that have very different play styles or places that they come from?
I can say at least at this current time, I don't feel like it's as much of as a challenge because we've set up a great foundation where I think maybe if we were, we spent less time thinking about, how the game was at the initial ideation of Grand Archive. We have a lot of things like the material deck and what that means to the lore, where is that coming from? It's
Battery dead.
the camera's dead.
Hold,
bro.
You're still live.
I'm still live.
Welcome
You're
to
still
the
live.
audio-only
This
version
is the
of Lineage Break
ASMR. Yeah,
Podcast.
this is the ASMR version.
Close your eyes, put your headphones on. We'll talk real soft for you.
Relaxing bedtime story.
Whoa.
Bedtime stories with
We'll grab
developers.
Nog and he can read the rule book.
Oh
for a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit.
Chris can read the rule book.
Yeah. I think before the great blip, I was thinking a little bit about the design, and like I said, we set up a good foundation. I think the hardest part is the lore and writing itself, and we've had Roger's gotten a way for us to kind of go around that and circumvent that and come together. But the design aspect is a little bit more, we're able to be a little bit more narrow and explore the ideas that are true to the origin story that we're following, right? With Mortal Ambition, I think you'll see that you'll always feel that you're still playing Grand Archive, and you'll feel like you're having a champion, and that champion is part of something greater, and that the homeworld aspect of GA it's still prevalent. So luckily for us, it's not too difficult, but on the lore side, it's a little bit harder. So good luck.
Good
That's
luck.
No problem.
All right. So, like I said, I've kept you here long enough. I have my one final question. And this one maybe you can't answer, and that's okay. So, when you guys announced Mortal Ambition, we saw some teaser artwork for Mortal Ambition. We saw 4, assumingly, card arts. And now, the prevailing opinion, all right, of us at Lineage Break, is that these arts, most of them, some of them, are perhaps indicative of the class spread that we're going to be getting in Mortal Ambition, which we assume is like a 3-class set. And I'm just going to say some words, and you can feel free to react to those words or to be stone cold. We're going to have to stare directly at Syl as we say this. We have the water card, and we'll have them up on screen so that you guys can see them. We have the water card that very much looks like it should be a Guardian card. Big shield, water, no weapon, just a shield. Don't know what else that is.
We gotta look at them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have the fire card, which is a very attractive lady with a whip and a panda bear. And if that's not a tamer card, I don't know what else is.
Actually, just me and Sylidar.
Nice. Is that the circus, the secret circus?
Yeah, that's our secret circus costume.
And then the last one is difficult. The wind card in the top left, the girl with the fans, and I think that our decision is that this is a mage card. And that's all I got. I really don't know about the big halberd. That one's kind of beyond me. So, Shinja, what do you think? Assuming you don't have the leaks. Does that seem reasonable? Do you remember the art in your brain?
No.
Okay.
This entire weekend has been a blur.
That's fair. You were running around with a camera while we were watching the keynote.
Well, I was making sure the folks at home could see the pictures very nicely.
Well, you look at this later and you send me your thoughts and you tell me if I'm right. Or, any of these lovely developers can chime in, maybe let us know.
There was indeed a panda.
There was indeed a panda. All right, I tried my best. That, like I said, the audience would be remiss if I didn't try to angle for something. But I know we are just around the corner from MRC launch day, so I won't press too far for Set 5 stuff. Oh, something I did want to ask: is there any sort of timeline where we might see more supporter pack stuff? Because I'm very excited to see what those cards are. That's kind of soonish, maybe soonish.
I think it's a fun guessing game with the arts we reveal.
Yeah.
Some of them are very obvious.
Right.
Some of them are nice homages. I think rolling out towards Anime Expo will reveal a few more.
Nice.
But I think we'll leave some surprises for what comes in the box. On Wednesday.
Whoa. Can you confirm, I assume this is very much a softball, that there are exclusive SPs in Supporter Pack 2?
Yes.
Yes. Ooh. Oh. Because we didn't see any, I think. So we don't need to see those, but they exist. You know that now. There you go. That's what I'll tag as our exclusive leak that we got. Whoa, there's new CSRs in the CSR product. Whoa.
Whoa.
All right. Well, hey, thank you guys for being on. I really do appreciate
Thank
it.
you for inviting us.
Sylidar,
Thanks for having us on.
do you want to say anything while you're here? You want to say hello to the people? Anything you want to share? All right. He loves you all
leaks.
very much.
He tried.
No leaks.
Cam tried.
It's
I
a shame
tried.
that he's not on camera. It's so funny.
So yeah, thank you guys all for being here. Is there anything you guys want to say before we sign off?
Check out Ascent Taipei.
True.
That's coming up soon. Check out our future Ascents. We release the dates for all of those. We hope to see you guys at those events. Get a chance to meet some of us. We'll always try to travel. Hopefully, at least one of us at these events. But we thank you for your support. Thank you guys for having us on, and thank you for showing your interest in the game.
Enjoy MRC.
Ooh, we will. Clark busted.
Yeah. From my angle, thanks. Appreciate everyone who's been so supportive of what I've been doing and trying to do coverage and content and stuff for some of the ascents and now Worlds, right? So all that nice feedback and response has been kind of made the amount of stress and running around and all that worth it. And all I can say is just helps me push for more. So now that Worlds is over, this is my experimental time.
Ooh.
So I'm trying to push the envelope of what a TCG broadcast looks like now. So I know for most of the streams we did top down, top and bottom, but I think the general consensus is left and right is more universally better,
Sure.
which I do agree with. However, the reason why I initially chose top down was I think the top down UI looks better.
Sure.
Than the current left and right. So that is now what I am
Ooh.
experimenting with is how do I make a left and right UI overlay look better, more intuitive, and just make it a more cleaner experience. And also, I think storylines are very important. So we experimented that with Worlds with Media Day and the players. So I'm going to try to push for more of that.
Nice. Stevie.
I'm excited to see MRC, and I'm excited to travel to some of these events that are Chicago and Toronto,
announced.
and hopefully the December US is closest to us or closer to us, East Coast. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you guys again for taking time out of your day to sit down and talk with us and give us your thoughts on some things. It's very I don't know what the word is, but thank you.
No, thank you, Steve.
So, thank you guys for watching. Something that I want to say is these guys all work very hard, And something that I think doesn't happen enough is words of affirmation. So just like let them know that they're doing a great job. Not even here, feel free to tag them on Discord. I'm sure they love being added all the time and tell them how great a job they're doing. And especially Alan, he loves when you tag him on Discord.
I don't think we appreciate Roger enough. We should just, everyone in the comments, just write your words of affirmation for Roger.
I agree.
I'm deleting my Discord account.
So yeah, that's all we have. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I can get you lovely people again on the show. But yeah, I really appreciate it. And we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good one, guys.
Woo.
Woo.